Hello and welcome to Incredible Indian Tours and our next webinar. We are bringing you today a tour through South India, our South Indian Odyssey trip. I want to actually take you on the tour and show you some of the things that you'll see when you come travelling with us to South India. So starting up, we are going to show you the map of where we travel to. This tour covers 4 states of India as well as a union territory. We cover a bit over 2,000 kilometres on this tour, so we cover a lot of ground and lots of very exciting places. It's a very diverse tour, lots of different things to see and do. We start the tour in Goa. Goa it's quite a famous state of India. A lot of people think Goa is just a place. It is a state. It's the smallest state in the country. It has about 100 kilometres of beaches. It's very well known though for its Portuguese heritage and culture. It was part of Portugal from 1510 until 1961, so 14 years after India's independence. So the Portuguese heritage and culture is still very strong throughout the whole state. And there's some wonderful culture and great food that I'll mention. So talking about the beaches, they are beautiful. It's great sunsets. Yes, you get cows on the beaches. We don't stay on the beaches though on this tour. So if you want to come and experience some of Goa's beaches, then I would recommend coming a couple of days before and choosing a beach. And I'm very happy to help you choose a beach that would suit you. There's many different types of beaches and accommodations you can stay at, from very basic budget to 5-star luxury resorts. So lots of choice there, and it really is very beautiful. But I'm going to start telling you more about what we're doing on this tour, and that is staying in Panjim, which is the capital of Goa. It's only a small town, and it's where the Portuguese had their capital. So there's a lot of beautiful Portuguese heritage and lovely old buildings, churches that are great to see. And this building just down here on the bottom right, you can see, is actually the hotel we stay in, the Panjim Inn. When we go to Old Goa, which is where the original Portuguese settlement was, they've got a lot of churches, there's not much else there. One of the interesting things to see there is in the Basilica Bon Jesus. This is actually the tomb of St. Francis Xavier. His incorruptible body was placed here in 1624, and it's put on display every 10 years for 6 weeks, which is very interesting to see. If you're a Catholic, then it's a great pilgrimage to come and see this. The next showing is expected to be from November 2024, but you can, in the church, see this coffin. It's perched up high, so you can't see into it, but there's lots of other wonderful things to see there as well. The culture of Goa is wonderful. Lots of seafood because it's on the coast, obviously. Lots of cheap bars and drinks throughout the state. People still live very traditionally. A lot of, even this is picture down here in the bottom right, is of a well that is still in use in the heart of the old Latin Quarter of Panjim. So it's still a very interesting culture to see. And of course the seafood and the other Goan food. You might have heard of vindaloos and chakutias. There are also other wonderful coconut stews. And one of my favourite things is bambika, this dessert down here, which is made up of at least 7 layers of a coconut slice with ghee. It's absolutely delicious. So leaving Goa behind, I'm now going to take you through to Karnataka, where we visit 2 places, Hampi and Mysore, both very different. Our first stop is Hampi, which is quite remote. It's an amazing, incredible location, a boulder-strewn riverscape. It's got an amazing history and great culture and some very interesting people to meet and see there. So this is some of the landscapes around the Hampi area, and as you can see, lots of rice paddies, caves because of all these rocks and boulders. Monkeys are everywhere, and coconut trees. It's really quite spectacular, very beautiful. We do a lot of exploring around the area because we have a couple of full days, 2.5 days here in Hampi to check out various things. There's a lot of ruins of the old Vijayanagar Empire that was based here in the 14th to the 17th centuries. Not a lot left here apart from lots of stone temples and religious sites. There are some palaces, but most of the palaces were built in wood. So when the Muslim Empire overthrew them, they burnt and got rid of most of what was there. So there's a few things still to see in the royal enclosure as well. Because it's got such an interesting history, it's dating back to the Hindu mythological Ramayana story. It's believed to be where Hanuman, the monkey god, lived. So there's a lot of pilgrims come here, a lot of sadhus, ascetics that you'll see wandering around the town, and people just coming to visit the main temple. Of course, holy cows, as throughout the rest of the country, you'll find in abundance here. And there's cows visiting the temple, apparently. Great people, very friendly. We ride on these coracle boats, which is a lot of fun. And these ladies down in the bottom right here are actually making goods. They make bags and foot mats and all sorts of various different articles made from banana fibre. So we go and visit those too in one of the local villages. So when we leave Hampi, we head to Mysore. Mysore was the capital of the Wadiyar kingdom back from the 13th century, 14th century, and the capital is now Bangalore and it's called Karnataka state, but this was the original capital. So there's lots of palaces and there's a great Hindu heritage here, some fabulous markets to visit. So talking about the palace, it's one of the largest palaces in India. This particular palace was built in 1912. Unfortunately, the previous one was made of wood and burnt down. But every Sunday, this palace is lit up by 98,000 light bulbs. And yes, we do visit on a Sunday, so you get to see this incredible spectacle. And of course, we visit throughout into the palace as well, which is quite spectacular. The markets are very cool in Mysore, and this is the Devaraja market, which sells lots of fresh produce, vegetables, fruits, flowers, coloured powders. You might have seen these images from India. This is probably where they were taken. It's very colourful, great to explore. Hindu heritage, Mysore, the hill above Mysore is believed to be the site where an epic battle happened between a demon called Mahishasura, which is where Mysore gets its name, and the goddess Durga. And Durga is actually a form of, or one of Shiva's wives. So Shiva, his vehicle or animal is the bull, the Nandi, and this is the third largest Nandi bull, and it's situated about 2/3 of the way up the top of this hill that overlooks Mysore. There's some ancient Hindu temples in the area around Mysore as well, and we visit one of them, this beautiful Hoysala temple called Somnath, which you can see some of the carvings down in that bottom right corner there. So Mysore's a lot of fun. We enjoy spending time there. It's a very easy city to wander around, open, welcoming streets, and very attractive. But we leave Mysore and Karnataka behind and we head down back to the west coast to Kerala, which is known as God's own country. And we spend a lot of time here in Kerala. I think we have 11 nights and visit 5-6 different locations. Lots to see and do here. So our first stop is Kannur in the northern part of the Keralan coast. The main reason we visit Kannur is to see a Thayam performance. We also get to stay at the beach and go and visit the town where you'll see the fort, and it's famous for its weaving. So the Thayam is a very interesting thing I want to tell you about. It's a ritual form of worship, dates back thousands of years. Believe that the people come in direct contact with the gods. So the performers of the Thayam are born into the caste that perform this ritual, and they're trained from a very early age. The Thayam dancer is believed to be possessed by the spirit of the god when they undergo their dance. These dances are held in local village temple complexes. And so when the dancer has finished their ritual, the god has come into their body, and then they bless the temple, the priests, and the local people for the coming year. It's really quite an amazing thing to witness. So during the winter months, there is usually a Thayam performance happening somewhere around the Kannur district. So we make sure that we see one of those when we're staying. We have a couple of nights here in Kannur. Now, we stay in Kannur down just a little south of the city by the beach, and very deserted beach, very beautiful, as you can see. So that's a great bit of time out that we have. But we also spend some time in town. The fort here in Kannur was built by the Portuguese, then taken over by the Dutch, and finally taken over by the British. There's not much left to see there, but there's a few buildings. And we also spend some time in the town, which is known as the land of looms and law. There were many hand looms throughout Kannur town dating back 150 years. Still today, it's a major weaving area, and there's about 30 or more companies, co-ops, still producing hand-woven cotton goods. A lot of them are exported, mainly to the USA, to the UK and Germany. I've actually bought some tablecloths that were seconds meant to be going to IKEA. So you can get some really good stuff there. So we visit one of the weaving factories and check it out. Moving on from Kannur, though, we head down to Cochin, which is one of everyone's favourite destinations on the tour. Cochin, we stay in a place, part of Cochin, called Fort Cochin, which was the old fort, again originally inhabited by the Portuguese, then the Dutch, and then the British. There's a small part of the area called Jewtown. I'll tell you about that, and all about the shopping, the art, food, and another art form that we will visit. So this is Fort Cochin, known best for its fishing nets and lots of old Portuguese buildings and churches. The church is interesting. This church down the bottom left here, it's St. Francis Church, and it's actually where Vasco da Gama was buried for 14 years before his body was moved back to Portugal in the 16th century. Jewtown is full of the warehouses, the spice warehouses that fronted the waterfront there. And today still you'll find a lot of the spice trade being carried on. These images you can see are of ginger being put out to dry, and crates of ginger there ready to be shipped. And the streets themselves are full of spice warehouses and shops with knickknacks and antiques, faux antiques. It's a great place to walk around and do some shopping, some great cafes and restaurants as well. Since 2012, Cochin has also been home to a Biennale, Contemporary Art Biennale, and not just every 2 years when it's held, but throughout the year. Cochin is a venue now for a lot of art displays and exhibitions. So there's always something going on. It's a great place to come. There's also some fabulous shopping. You can get spices, antiques, clothing, knickknacks. So it's a great place to spend a few days, as we do. We have 3 nights here in Cochin. While we're in Cochin, also, we get to do a cooking class. And Cochin Keralan food is probably my favourite food in India. And we get to see how they make some of the delicious coconut curries, fish curries, coconut prawns, and vegetarian dishes as well. So we are taught by the lovely Aroma in the picture in the centre here, and we actually do the cooking class in their home and eat with them. So that's absolutely wonderful. You get to take the recipes home with you, of course. Finally, when we're in Cochin, we get to witness a Kathakali performance. Now, you might think this is similar to the Thayam that we just saw from back in Kannur, but it's not. Thayam is a religious ritual. Kathakali is entertainment. It is theatre. It is based on religious stories. It was devised by Raja back in the Shakespearean times, and these plays, which would tell some of the myths of the Hindu epics, would traditionally run from the mid-evening right through to dawn the next day. These days there are a couple of theatres in Cochin that put on these performances, but they're only about 30, 45 minutes long. But we turn up a little beforehand so we can witness the makeup, putting on the makeup, and also they give us a demonstration of the eye movements and the hand movements. There's no speaking in these plays, it's just dance and physical gestures that they describe the movements and the story through. It's very interesting to see. So that finishes up our time in Cochin, and we move south of Cochin now to an area called the Keralan Backwaters, which are one of the most beautiful parts of India. So I'll tell you a little about the geography, the history of the backwaters. Also, we spend time on a houseboat and time in a homestay on one of the islands in the backwaters. So geographically, this area is made up of 5 large lakes, about 41 rivers that feed these lakes. There are many canals, both man-made and natural, linking the whole area together. In all, there's about 900 kilometres of waterways. The whole area lies below sea level, and the main agriculture is rice paddy, fed by dikes. So it's very interesting to explore and see all these different waterways and views, and you can take larger boats, smaller canoes, all through the area, and we do all of that. Historically, the area goes back thousands of years, and like in Cochin, there's been a lot of foreign influence there. In fact, it's believed that the Jews first came to Kerala in 568 BC after the first temple of Jerusalem was destroyed, and a second wave came after the sacking of Jerusalem in 72 AD. Also, there were Orthodox Christians, Syrian Christians came with St. Thomas, it's believed, back in the 1st century AD. And a lot of the people in the Keralan Backwaters are actually Syrian or Syriac Christians, and we stay with the family on the backwaters. And also a lot of the houseboats are run by these people. So this is our houseboat experience, and it's absolutely wonderful. We stay in a luxury houseboat. The houseboats have anywhere from 1 to 6 rooms, all attached, all ensuite bathrooms. And so we might be on 1 or 2 boats on our tour. And we spend the day there. We have an afternoon cruising and pull up for the night somewhere, have delicious meals. We're looked after by the captain, a chef and a steward. At least we might have a 4th staff member, and it's a wonderful experience, and you can just sit back and let the scenes of the waterways and people living their lives float by you as you sail down through the rivers of the Keralan Backwaters, and it's an experience you will never forget. But we don't leave the backwaters when we finish our houseboat experience. We stay with the lovely family of Thomas and Matthew Maria. They've been running a homestay now for many years, and the 3 siblings have their own houses, so they've got lots of rooms for the whole group to stay in. when we're staying with them, we get to have a walk around the island that they live on and see how life is lived there, meet the local people. Because it's a vehicle-free island, you have to get there by boat, and people don't have their own car. A lot of the families don't have their own car. If they do, it's kept on the mainland, and they get around. So everyone has a boat, usually a bigger boat and some smaller canoes to get around, like we might have a car or some bikes, bicycles. If we're lucky, we'll go and visit a toddy shop. The image of us up in the top right corner here, we are drinking toddy. Toddy is made from coconut flower nectar. And every morning, toddy tappers go up the trees and they've got a pot sitting up there collecting the sap from the flowers, and they collect it in the mornings. When you drink it first thing in the morning, it's believed to be a health drink. It's very healthy. Very good for you. It is a little alcoholic, and as the day goes on, it ferments, it gets stronger. So the later in the day you drink this, it will taste stronger and a little less enjoyable. It's better to have it early on. But we try a bit of toddy. It's a lot of fun. Moving on from the backwaters now, we go up into the hills of Munnar and Periyar. Now, Munnar is famous for its tea plantations, and they are the highest tea plantations in the world, and about 1/5 of India's tea is grown in this area. So we visit a factory, we take a hike through the plantations, drive around and see some of the beautiful scenery there. It's really quite spectacular. We also go to Periyar National Park, which is a Project Tiger Park. It was made in a park in 1978 and situated around a dam, the Munnar Periyar Dam, which was created in 1895. The park does have tigers, but you're not going to see them. Very, very rare to see tigers, but you're likely to see elephants if you're lucky, bison, other large animals. It's also well known for these giant Malabar squirrels you can see down here in the bottom left. These squirrels can grow up to 2.5 feet from tip to tail. So they are giant, they're enormous, and they're very cute. And these gorgeous monkeys over here on the bottom right are Nilgiri langurs, only found in this part of India, all black. Very interesting. And you'll often see them just around town where we stay. We take a walk through the park, a hike, half day, few hours, and depending on which part of the park we walk to, we might take a ride on these bamboo rafts across the dam. It's a lot of fun. It's a beautiful part of Kerala. It's also well known for the spices. This part of Kerala that is known as the Malabar coast, and for millennia, spices have been traded around the world from this part of India, including pepper, cardamom, vanilla, cloves, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and turmeric. So we go and visit a spice plantation, which is owned by a family who've been running this plantation, just situated on 2 acres of land for a couple of generations now. And so you'll see up close how these spices are grown. In this image you can see there's peppercorns down the bottom here. We're being shown a cocoa pod. This is cardamom. This is cardamom growing. Over here is some coffee, and these are vanilla beans. And you'll get to see a lot more, as well as some beautiful exotic flowers when we visit the spice garden. Right, moving on from Kerala, we're very sad to leave, but we have lots more to still see, and we head down into Tamil Nadu, and our first destination is the city of Madurai. Tamil Nadu is known as the city, the land of temple cities, and probably the most impressive temple city is Madurai, or temple is Madurai. And it's a very interesting town as well, with great markets. So we spend some time here in the temple, which covers 14 acres and has 14 of these gopurams, or towers, the highest being 52 meters. So it's a city in itself. Inside the temple, there are beautiful galleries and areas, halls that we visit. We go a couple of times. We'll go in the morning to see the temple when it's quite quiet. But for those interested, we go back in the evening and are there for a special ceremony which happens every night, the putting to bed of the gods ceremony. And you can see down here in the bottom right, this is a palanquin that has the statue of the god Shiva. Now he's moved from his temple where he spends his day back into the bedroom of his wife, Meenakshi, who is a form of Parvati. So it is called the Sri Meenakshi temple after Meenakshi, who is the fish-eyed goddess. And there's lots of wonderful myths surrounding this. The temple itself has been around for over 2,000 years. The actual current temple was built in the 12th century, but there has been some form of temple on the site for millennia, with rituals almost unchanged since that time. In fact, the city itself, there's evidence of trade carried on with ancient Romans and Greeks. Marco Polo visited in 1273, and he called it the most noble and splendid province in the world. So it's a wonderful city. There's some great markets and shopping to be had. There's a small palace that we visit as well. Moving on from Madurai, though, we head to Pondicherry, which is over on the east coast. So we've travelled right from the west to the east coast of South India here. Pondicherry is a very interesting place. It was a French colony from the early 1700s until 1954, when it was taken back over by India. So there's a lot of French feel in town. There's also a very interesting Tamil quarter, and an ashram that I'll tell you a little about as well. So when we explore Pondicherry, this is the French quarter, also known as White Town. As you can see, lots of roofs, there's boulevards, even the policemen wear these French kepis, so it's absolutely charming. We stay in the French quarter when we're in Pondicherry. We also visit the Tamil Quarter, which has some very traditional homes, buildings, temples that date way back before the French occupation of Pondicherry. There's also the ashram that is a very important part of Pondicherry. And this picture up here in the top left is of the main ashram building in the town. This structure over here is a temple that is the center of an area called Auroville. Now, the ashram was started back in the early 1900s, 1910, by Sri Aurobindo. He had a disciple who became known as the Mother, and she was a woman that was actually born of Egyptian and Turkish parents. She took over the ashram when Aurobindo died, and she decided to create this society, like an experimental society for all people, and it opened in 1968. And today, even, there are people that live there from over 54 countries throughout the world. About 40% of them are Europeans, obviously. A lot of French, there's a lot of Germans as well, and of course a lot of Indians also living there. Now, these Aurovillians, they make a lot of things. They make a lot of handicrafts, incense, beauty goods, other goods. There is so many wonderful things to purchase in Auroville, and also in Pondicherry, in shops run by Aurovillians. There's also some fabulous hotels, restaurants, cafes in Pondicherry. It's a very cosmopolitan place, and it is wonderful. We spent a couple of nights here, and everyone loves being in Pondicherry. But from Pondicherry, we move on to our very final stop of the tour, which is Mahabalipuram. Now, Mahabalipuram is situated just 60 kilometers south of Chennai Airport. So we don't stay in Chennai. This is the end of the tour. We drive you back to Chennai Airport at the end of it. And it's a really nice spot to spend a couple of days here. We stay on the beach in a resort, but we get to visit the town. It's a small village, nothing more, but it is a World Heritage Site with some very interesting history. It's World Heritage because of all of these amazing stone temples. There are various types. There are cave temples like this one you can see up here. There are bas relief carvings throughout the town. There are these monolithic stone temples that have been built, like and monolithic structures, and also constructed rock temples like this, which is the famous shore temple that you'll see in Mahabalipuram. Now, interesting story about this shore temple, and that is that there were believed to have been 7 of these temples in Mahabalipuram, dating back to the 7th and 8th centuries when they were all built. Now, in 2004, when the tsunami happened, as the waters receded, there were remains of another temple sighted just beyond this one out, normally submerged under the ocean. So it is believed that these myths of these extra temples may actually have been correct. But Mahabalipuram has lots of other interesting stuff. We stay in a beautiful beach resort right on the ocean, and you have lots of time to enjoy that. The town itself has some really cool stuff to see. There's a few little shops selling these stone carvings, and as you walk around town you hear the stone carvers tapping away on lots of different goods. There's some shops selling clothing and jewelry and knickknacks, and lots of great restaurants. There's luxury 5-star resorts with wonderful restaurants. There's also beach shacks situated right on the sand, and of course, being on the coast and being a fishing village, you are going to get lots of fabulous seafood as well. So a few more things I want to point out about traveling through South India. You are going to probably have the chance for an Ayurvedic massage. Ayurveda is a very big part of Keralan life, and also throughout South India you'll find a lot of the hotels have massage and spas, so you can treat yourself to an Ayurvedic massage, which I highly recommend trying, or an Ayurvedic treatment. And of course the food, I know I've already talked about the food a little bit, but I have to reiterate that the South Indian food is so good. It is very different from what you might imagine Indian food to be. So it's not like the North Indian Punjabi heavy cream filled dishes, naans, tandooris, very, very different. Sweets are pan-India, you'll get wonderful sweets everywhere, but in South India you'll get lots of food that is based on coconut and rice. They don't have so much wheat down here. So a few of the dishes that you'll get to try might be these appams, which are famous in Kerala, and they're made from fermented rice flour, and they're soft and fluffy in the middle and a little bit crispy on the outside, and they would take the place of a bread, a flat bread. Over here you have something called idiyappam, and these are rice noodles that are being steamed, and they're a very common breakfast dish served with a potato or a vegetable curry. They're also very similar to dishes you might find in Sri Lanka if you've ever been there. In Sri Lanka, they're known as hoppers and string hoppers. So Keralan food is very similar to Sri Lankan food. Lots of coconut. This is a bean dish up here with fresh grated coconut in it. Down here actually is a wheat dish. It's called a Keralan parota, and that is absolutely delicious, wonderful to eat with a curry. Everything you'll find is generally served on a banana leaf. This is a traditional way of eating food in South India, and if you're game, with your hands, which is a lot of fun. Also throughout Kerala there are many festivals, cultural rituals that are different to what you'll find in the north. People very friendly, warm, welcoming, and it's a wonderful part of India to explore. So now, traveling through South India, the best time of the year is in the Northern Hemisphere winter. So from December through February, it is hot even at that time of year, but very, very hot outside of those months. South India is a more gentle introduction to India. So if it's your first visit to India and India seems like a bit of a daunting destination, then it's a great place for your first visit. Our South India tour, the South Indian Odyssey, is 24 days in length, and the next departure of this tour is going to be in January 2022. So if you want any more information, please visit the website. Send me a message on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, or send me an email. Please get in contact. I'd love to hear from you, and thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. So until then, thank you and namaste and vanakkam.